Welcome, explorers, to the wild and wet story of Tektite, the project that proved science is basically just adult show on tell, but sometimes with surprisingly humid living conditions. Picture this, it's the late 1960s. We've just put people on the moon, but apparently, the next logical step wasn't conquering Mars, but conquering the overwhelming awkwardness of sharing a damp metal cylinder 50 feet beneath the waves. This isn't a sci-fi movie. It's the Tektite Habitat, a groundbreaking multi-agency effort. The premise was simple: send humans to live and work underwater for extended periods. Why? Well, because we're humans. And if there's a place we haven't built a slightly depressing efficiency apartment, we just haven't tried hard enough. The Tektite structure itself looked like two large, stacked coffee cans connected by a central access tube. Sitting on legs like a giant, metallic daddy long. It was positioned in Lameshire Bay, St. John, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, a gorgeous location. Provided you didn't mind the entire ceiling dripping condensation onto your breakfast cereal. It was designed to maintain saturation diving conditions, meaning the internal atmosphere matched the external pressure. This allowed the aquanauts, the term for these brave souls, to spend hours outside without needing lengthy decompression stops when returning to the habitat. Think of it as a deep-sea express lane, allowing them to truly become neighbors with the local grouper population. The original Tektite I mission saw 4 male scientists live in this glorified submersible for 58 consecutive days. Their mission: to study marine life, test new equipment, and, crucially for NASA, study human behavior in isolation. Yes, that's right, NASA was involved. They realized that putting 4 grumpy scientists in a small, pressurized can under the ocean was surprisingly similar to putting 4 grumpy astronauts in a small, pressurized can heading to the moon. If they could survive sharing a refrigerator with marine biologists, they could probably handle the loneliness of space. But the real mic drop moment came during Tektite 2, specifically Mission 6. This time, the crew wasn't just diverse, it was entirely female, led by the legendary Dr. Sylvia Erla, marine biologist so dedicated she probably breathes through gills. These 5 women spent 2 weeks proving that, yes, women could handle the pressure, the isolation, and the sheer amount of damp laundry just as well as, if not better than, their male counterparts. This was a huge step for gender equality in the scientific frontier. It proved that the only prerequisite for groundbreaking research is a high tolerance for tight spaces and a constant mist of salt spray. Life inside Tektite was an exercise in extreme coziness. The upper chamber was the dry area, featuring bunks, storage, and the infamous microwave oven. The lower chamber was the wet room, essentially a perpetually damp entryway where the scientists would pop in and out of the ocean like highly educated meerkats. The most critical element, the open moon pool at the bottom of the wet room, which used air pressure to keep the water from flooding the habitat. If that pressure ever failed, well, let us just say the whole experiment would have ended with a very wet splash and a severely damaged security deposit. Despite the inherent logistical challenges, imagine trying to dry your socks in a perpetually humid environment. The Tektite program yielded massive scientific gains. Researchers logged thousands of hours observing the local ecosystem, creating incredible new insights into coral reef systems and the complex behavior of fish. They proved that saturation diving was a viable, long-term research tool that could completely change how we study the oceans. More importantly, they provided NASA with crucial data on group dynamics, sleep cycles, and stress management in extreme confined environments. Essentially, Tektite didn't just teach us about the ocean. It taught us how not to kill your coworkers when you're trapped together in a metal box, a skill that's equally useful 50 feet down or 200,000 miles up in space. The Tektite Habitat was retired decades ago, but its legacy lives on. It was a bold, eccentric experiment that perfectly captured the spirit of mid-century science. Ambitious, slightly absurd, and profoundly impactful, It solidified the role of the aquanaut in ocean research and paved the way for every subsequent undersea habitat that followed. It proved that sometimes the best way to understand the vast cosmos is to spend some time exploring the cramped quarters of your own backyard, especially if your backyard happens to be the deep blue sea. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from the frontiers of science. See you next time.